welcome to Game and Read.
Stop if you have not already watched part 1 of this video series, which is Shin Megami Tensei, Devil Survivor, and Daughter of Smoke and Bone. You can check that out on our YouTube page. Watch that first, then watch this one, or watch any of our other videos. Bam.
So since we did a part 1, we're not gonna talk too many details about the story, but we will give a brief overview in that Shin Megami Tensei Devil Survivor is about a protagonist with a capital P, could you name him, and his friends, and they find themselves stuck in a lockdown in a neighborhood of Tokyo, and there are demons everywhere.
Now, Daughter of Smoke and Bone is all about the war between the chimera, demon-esque creatures and the, I'm totally blanking on, the angel race of people who are fighting them, and how it relates to this seemingly odd, but, human girl named Karu. And then crazy stuff happens, there's some wishing being made, lots of, drama, Twilight-esque relationships at times.
So much drama!
And then stuff happens and then the book ends.
So, there is a lot to talk about with these two things, the game and the book. But one theme that is common in both, and that's kind of unexpected link between the two, is the theme of rebirth.
Now, Shin Megami Tensei in Japanese actually translates to Rebirth of the Goddess, and that is, these games go back to, I think the late 80s is when the first one came out as like a computer and then an NES game.
It's been a long
in Japan only. So there is a consistent theme in each Shin Megami Tensei game of rebirth in some variety, and that's something I actually forgot about before putting this up for recommendation for this particular video.
And it was kind of fun to figure that out because I didn't forget, but just didn't mention, because it's a plot point. So if you
spoilers.
are going to read Daughter of Smoke and Bone, if you're interested, stop here. The rest of this video will have spoilers for The Daughter of Smoke and Bone by Lady Taylor.
Okay, I think we're clear.
Back to business. So, The Daughter of Smoke and Bone, one of the, the kind of crucial plot point.
Literally the most interesting thing that happens.
Is that Karu is the reincarnation of
a
chimera. So she's a human when we meet her, but then we find out that she is indeed a reincarnation of a chimera.
Which are kind of hybrid beasts. Some have animal parts, some have mostly human parts. It's a little weird.
So she is reborn in a very explicit way in that she's literally reborn. That is a very important part, and you don't find that out until
the last third of the book, and then that last third of the book is entirely a flashback about her life before she was reborn, and this angel Seraph. I just remembered what they're called. The Seraphim. She falls in love with the Seraphim. She gets reborn. She falls in love with the same Seraphim, and then finds out this whole crazy Romeo and Juliet style story that just got a little draining to read. But that's what happens. There is literal rebirth. And then in Shin Megami Tensei Devil Survivor, one of the main points of rebirth is the idea that the protagonist and his cousin Naoya are in many ways reborn versions of Cain and Abel. One is seen as the Cain was the bad one, right?
So, if you are not familiar with the Cain and Abel story, Cain and Abel were the sons of Adam in the Hebrew Bible. In Genesis, Cain killed Abel, and Cain then... there's lots of shenanigans. You should actually read it. It's an interesting biblical story. But basically, Cain killed his brother Abel. Depends on the scholar for what reason, but he is often seen as, this evil, kind of filled with sin figure. Cain and Abel is a dichotomy that's been used in a lot of literature and other mediums to designate, the good versus bad two sides of the coin. So Naoya is definitely the Cain of Shin Megami Tensei, and the protagonist is Abel. Though they're not brothers, they're cousins, so they're still related.
Well, and the sin being wrought is significantly different from the Cain and Abel story, where it's just murder. In this, Naoya is actively trying to unseat Metatron, which is God, and become kind of a king of demons, and he invents this demon summoning program, which sets off the whole events of the game. And while he isn't always explicitly like evil, because it gets kind of very less black and white about who's good, who's bad, it is definitely a much bigger scenario than the original Cain and Abel story. And really, given the fact that you can choose which side you want to go on, and it can go about 5 or 6 different ways, it's hard to call the protagonist always Abel, because you can join Naoya and actually go and kill God.
I think that the Cain and Abel analogy is a little simplistic, because it's really nuanced. I mean, the demon summoning program is only a sin if you think demons are all bad, and you think angels or God are all good. So there's definitely a lot more layers of complexity in the relationship between the protagonist and his cousin, and just how they interact with each other and how they interact with the same audiences, so like the demons and the angels and the other people they encounter. So it's got like the structure of Cain and Abel in that sense of like good, bad, related, blah, blah, but it's not, when you look deeper into that analogy, it's maybe not so descriptive.
The other major point we wanted to make in this video about how these two mediums, the book, the game, fit together, is that the plots of both of these stories are so convoluted, so kind of contrived. Obviously, they're contrived because they're fantasy in different ways, but just like didn't feel even remotely like well structured a lot of the time. With Daughter of Smoke and Bone, Laini Taylor sets up what I thought was a fairly interesting beginning. It's kind of this mysterious girl who goes around and gets teeth for her demon lord father guy. Then suddenly she's cut off from him. She's trying to figure out how to get back to him. And then at that point, it just kind of takes this weird turn where it's more about this relationship she's developing with this seraph angel named Akiva. And then suddenly she finds out, oh wait, I used to be this other person. Oh, we used to be in love, Akiva. What? This is crazy. And then the whole rest of the story is this kind of weird dive into the cultures of the Chimera and this love story, and then this vengeance thing going on that ends with Karu being executed and then secretly reborn as basically a human baby. And at that point I was just kind of like, this did not go the way I thought it would, and I do not like the way it twisted itself around and turned into primarily a love story when previously it was just kind of a what the hell is going on story.
I think that is a common theme that people bring up in YA literature, and I think that is not bad. Books that focus on relationships are not bad, and some are done really well, and there are people who like those. But I think that so often young adult literature, that's such an important factor in a lot of these books that it can be harder to relate to them or to really find them interesting, especially in the world of The Daughter in Smoke and Bone, which I think is a totally cool universe. I mean, it starts in Marrakesh. Is she in Marrakesh to start? Prague. It starts in Prague, which I just feel like is not a city or a setting that's used.
It's a very cool city.
Very often, right? You have this whole chimera, seraph, like dual culture clash thing going on. I think the rebirth is really interesting, but it does get overshadowed by the love and the mush.
Yeah, well, and it wasn't there from the beginning, and then suddenly it became it became the main plot of the story once it started. It was like kind of going this one direction that I was fairly interested in. Suddenly it's all about her and this angel guy, and do they actually like each other? Oh wait, they were destined for each other. She's actually mad at him for, stuff. But it's just, I did not care for it at that point. I understand I may not be the target demo for a lot of YA literature just because of my age range, but I feel like a similar thing came up in Cinder when we talked about that almost a year ago now, when we put it up with Metroid Fusion, and that, I like the concept, I like the crazy robot sci-fi disease stuff, and then they just start like putting a lot of pressure on her being in this kind of lovey-dovey relationship with this prince, and I'm like, I get that it's a take on Cinderella and all that, but I felt like she was a much more interesting character and got less interesting once the romance became a more prominent aspect. I don't know. At least that's my take on it. Not that romance is bad, I just didn't like how it ended up being handled.
Now, in Shin Megami Tensei Devil Survivor, there is not really any romance, which I thought was kind of weird, but whatever. And there was no real main plot point. Well, okay, there was.
There are numerous big plot points.
So there was the Demons Angels lockdown, right? So that's like the main plot point. But there are so many random characters that are all coming back and like all have important things, and there are all these interactions, and you can talk to this person or that person or these people or fight this guy, and like there's just so much happening story-wise that I just gave up trying to keep track of it. I really did. I was more interested in just like fighting demons. I just sped through the text because I was like, I don't know which plot we're going on right now, so I'm not even gonna try.
Yeah, there are about 20 main and side characters, or I mean not literally 20, but it feels like that many that they expect you to remember. 1, their name, 2, what they look like, 3, why they're upset about the whole lockdown situation, 4, what their eventual goal is, and then it just seems so packed in, and I feel like if they could have just focused on the main people you start with, just like the 3 friends, and maybe add in a few others along the way, and not have them be like major issues and players in this game, it would be a lot easier to just kind of comprehend. I know that's kind of a common trend in certain JRPGs where they'll be like, here's a huge plot with a cast of 15 characters, all of whom have highly detailed goals and archetypes and everything, but I think that's my biggest issue with SMT Devil Survivor.
Yeah, it's really hard to stay engaged with any of this story because it is so convoluted and there are so many moving parts that, like I said, I just sort of sped through the text bubbles because I felt like, what's the point? I'm not going to remember all these things and why this guy is mad or why this person wants to get out or what's the deal with these dudes. And so, even remembering who people are visually, like there was one guy that came up like early on, and then he came up again. I was like, who's that? We're not getting introduced. Who is that? And then I realized that we had already met him. I mean, it was a hot mess of so many overlapping stories, objectives, people. It made it hard to follow.
So finally, we need to decide how we think we did. We always like to rate ourselves a little bit on our overall pairing. And I think overall we are happy with how these two fit together for the pros and the cons.
I think that Daughter of Smoke and Bone and Shin Megami Tensei have a lot of overlapping features. You've got the teenage protagonist, which plays into it in, I think, the temperaments and the decisions.
And their blue hair.
And they both have blue hair. which is weird, but cool, I suppose.
Oh, that's what it's supposed to be. It's weird and cool.
So they both have blue hair. They're teenagers. They are on this, kind of quest that they didn't necessarily ask for. They're encountering demons and angels and trying to figure out the intentions of people. And there's that theme of rebirth that is pretty important in both the game and the book. That kind of fit them well together.
And then I think overall, how do you feel about Shin Megami Tensei now that you've played it in just like a by itself rating?
By itself, I liked the game. I felt like it was really long and really hard, which it made it a little hard to want to keep picking up. There would be a point where I'd be like, yeah, I'm going to pick it up and I'm going to keep playing. And then it was like, oh, it's only day 3 and I still have 4 more days and plus some because I don't know, I didn't know. And so it was a fun game, but I do think that it was a little convoluted, a little long. The crazy number of stories and plot lines going on didn't make it feel any shorter.
Yeah, we really gotta avoid some of these JRPGs. Like, they're fun, they've got weird plots, definitely fit well with YA books a lot, but they are lengthy and can be hard to get through if you don't, just plow through it.
And what did you think of Daughter and Smoke and Bone?
I would give it a 2 out of 5. And those 2 stars are for the first half of the book that I thought was fairly enjoyable, and no stars awarded to the latter half of the book, which I did not find enjoyable at all, and then got really confused with at the same time.
It is what it is.
Oh yeah, no, I mean, we've done a few YA books. I just now at this point I'm like, okay, I don't think I can read. I will still read it for this, and I will give my full honest opinion, what I like and didn't like. But I think I'm 0 for 3 for giving mostly negative reviews for YA books. We had Aragon, we had Cinder, and now Daughter of Smoke and Bone.
We had Golden Compass.
Oh, okay, I like Golden Compass. You got me on that one. However, I feel like I won't like it as much until I read the other 2, which I should do. Also true. So
overall, mediocre game and book, but pretty good pairing.
I wouldn't call that game mediocre. I'd call the story mediocre. The game, mechanics, and the way you play it is great.
That's fair.
The gameplay is great. If you're like, I just want a long-ass JRPG, play Shin Megami Tensei, any of them. Devil Survivor's a really good one. Just, unless you're really into that story, you're going to be groaning your way through the actual text.
Mediocre words.
There you go.
But a pretty good pairing overall.
Aha. So you can find all of our other videos and posts and podcasts now over at, well really we're just videos and podcasts now, over at gameandread.com.
We also do reviews, which are there.
True.
You can also follow us on social media. We are on Twitter and Instagram and Litzy. All of those are at Game and Read. And come back next week when we do a pairing of The Adventures of Cookie and Cream and Narwhal, Unicorn of the Sea.
We are going with children, not young adult. Yay!
Yay!
Thanks for watching.
Bye-bye.